Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the Joint Force Protection track. As you know, I'm Dave Angeletti, and I'm here to introduce you to our friends, Mike Segala and and Alex Mosison. So they're going to give you a quick brief on SFL Scientific. With that, I will hide myself from the stage, and gentlemen, have at it.
Thank you so much, Dave, for the opportunity. And everyone, thank you for being here. I just posted a link to our slides in the chat, so please feel free to follow along or grab them for later. I am Alex Mosison, Director of Federal Solutions for SFL Scientific, and I'm joined by our CEO, Mike Segala. Today, we'll be focusing on OptoAI, a paradigm shift to rapidly field AI at the tactical edge. First, a little about us. We're a fully US-based consultancy of 50 expert practitioners who operate as AI special forces. We're NVIDIA's Partner of the Year 3 times running, and partners of AWS, Azure, Google, Pure Storage, NetApp, you name it. So uniquely, we can make unbiased recommendations across the entire spectrum of options. We are custom end-to-end developers for mission-specific needs, keeping strategy, data, algorithms, architecture, and scalable deployment in mind, no matter where along the pipeline we're engaged. And we're serving the federal government. I come from DARPA, and you can see examples of our customers up top. We've held AI workshops for Navy forces at NAVAIR Pax River, NSWC Crane, and NIWC PAC, and developed solutions for the Army, Air Force, MDA, NGA, and others. So first today, we'll share some of our AI solutions for ISR on images, text, and signals. Later, you'll see how we fuse them together in one low swap package. Then we'll talk about the elements of OptoAI for Navy ISR, how it changes the game by adding bleeding edge capability to existing platforms at the tactical edge. And then we'll give you some proof that we're doing just that on a use case study of the Teledyne FLIR Skyraider for DTRA's CBRN mission space. We'll dive right into those AI solution examples then. First is computer vision. With and for the NGA, we created a system that in under a minute accomplishes what would have taken an analyst hours. We're analyzing very large aerial images in a geo-int posture that at the pixel level allows us to understand what has changed, but also who cares. Is this something that we, the government, whomever is looking at this intelligence, is concerned about from a safety, a security, an economic, or any other standpoint? In an NLP perspective, that's natural language processing for HHS OIG, we are supporting their diversity of investigations by allowing the personnel who probably don't have an analytics background to bring their documents, BYO documents, to a low code or no code environment, put them into the system, and through things that may not make a lot of sense on the surface, named entity recognition, topic modeling, relevant information extraction, the takeaway is that folks without much background in analytics are able to investigate things like opioid abuse, whistleblower complaints, hotline calls, and lots of other things. Also, we have RF signal analysis. So this is another modality of data. For USASMDC, we developed a solution that enabled them to understand what adversaries were doing with short RF signal bursts. And we were able to, with a level of detail that I can't discuss in this environment, but would be happy to offline, identify the source, nature, and precise location of where those RF signal bursts were coming from. So we've then looked at imagery, we have text, and here we have signals, which can come in any form. It's not just RF, but any sort of signal from any sort of sensor that we like to use OptoAI for. And you'll see a chemical sensor coming up pretty soon. So let's get to OptoAI itself with respect to the Navy's ISR. The bluff is that OptoAI is a collection of best-in-class AI algorithms for ISR with optional hardware to enhance existing platforms. And with all due respect to the 80+ unmanned systems that you just saw demonstrated at IMX 22, OptoAI is not yet another platform to buy. It gives your existing platforms AI capability. So those investments are worth more today rather than taking high costs and many years to develop, acquire, and deploy a new platform. And OptoAI has three components: algorithms, hardware, and integration. Our mission configurable OptoAI algorithms fuse multimodal capabilities like the images, text, and signals capabilities you just saw for high performance at the tactical edge. And we're talking way more sophisticated than TF dot quantization here. For hardware, if platforms have the onboard or base station hardware capabilities needed, great. If not, we have our best-in-class payload with 275 tops in a 1-pound package to do onboard in contested, congested, or denied environments, what usually requires comms. Or we have the right partners to build you something bigger. For integration, OptoAI is designed from the ground up to align with the Navy Unmanned campaign framework and related paradigms from the JAIC and across DoD. So it is the whole package from algorithms to hardware to integration. And these are the Navy's unmanned systems. They're fielded unmanned systems. OptoAI can enhance any and all of them. And there are plenty of Navy systems that aren't unmanned yet, but could be. There are plenty of fielded ISR systems that could have higher capability or require lower cognitive load for the same capability. And with all that in mind, we would like to have discussions about where OptoAI would be best placed in the field today. There are challenges to doing that, though, and they're ones that OptoAI overcomes. First, our adversaries are outpacing us in some ways, rapidly fielding countermeasures to any AI solution that the DoD deploys. Mr. Vaughn himself identified culture, organization, and process challenges as the most daunting in this space. So OptoAI is designed to be rapidly acquired, integrated, and updated. The cost, again, is much lower and the pace is much faster for enhancing a fielded platform versus developing a whole new one. Second, AI talent is scarce. So OptoAI is a force multiplier for Navy personnel and contractors, providing a springboard to mission-specific capabilities and the extension of those capabilities so the Navy isn't reinventing the wheel. And optionally, our experts would be on hand to contribute as much as needed. Third, doing AI right at the edge is hard. In the keynote just now, Ms. Amori mentioned the far edge, and Mr. Vaughn mentioned AI fusion from the far edge to shore nodes and beyond. So OptoAI is optimized end-to-end for the tactical edge and for deployment in hybrid environments across that AI fusion. With all of that said, you'd probably like to see some proof. So here it is. It is an OptoAI case study, which we did in partnership with Teledyne FLIR on their Skyraider platform, for a CBRN need that DTRA has. You'll see that we use mission-specific computer vision. That's EOIR, both in the visible and the thermal space. We're using advanced chemosensing AI, which is much more than being trained on a few hazards. And we're doing all of this on board at the edge in a way that enables both the operators and commanders to interface with it in an AR, VR environment. If you'd like, there's a link there to a whole white paper about it, but I'll show you a bit of a video now. So in this video, we'll see OptoAI semi-autonomously identify and localize chemical hazards while being commanded in AR. First here we see the EO, or the visual view. Then it switches to IR, or the thermal view, with multi-object tracking. The beauty is in fusing the two to visualize a hazardous plume, then show in real time its location, the direction of diffusion, and in blue there, a safe path for navigating around it. Switching locations, we're now seeing the pilot's heads-up display where they adjust mission parameters and choose to execute a semi-autonomous mission. The thermal scan identifies an object of interest for decision support. And it's inspected up close automatically with a chemical sensor and by reading the label, resulting in a concise, precise identification of the hazard. Commanders located practically anywhere have an AR/VR SAN table interface with which they can monitor the mission in real time and plan the next. So I'll unpack some of the things under the hood that weren't immediately apparent from that video. First, you're seeing that visual and thermal fusion, which is easier said than done when you're talking about something happening real time at 66 frames per second at the edge. Plume detection is something that has plagued scientists and other practitioners for years because the physics of it is non-trivial. The object tracking that we're doing, again, is happening at high speed in real time. And we're able to track things in an MOT algorithm, that's multi-object tracking, that is not fooled if something goes out of frame or behind another object. And we've implemented this for other clients in other ways that are very interesting as well. We're also able to identify concealed threats, again, because we're not just relying on the visual, the EOIR. We have that chemical sensor on board or any other sensor that could be RF or radiometric or what have you to ensure that we are making a mission-specific capability. The chemical ID that is on board there is not your typical approach where the system is trained on a few items and can only identify those few items. Let's say it was trained on ethanol and diesel. And if it was presented with a mixture of ethanol and diesel, it might not identify it because it's never seen quite that thing before. In our case, we identified 156,000 hazardous organic chemicals, loaded them, encoded them in 64-dimensional latent space, and created a chemosensing platform that allows us to identify how a sensor would react to the type of hazard in that space, even if it's never seen it before. So bottom line, we're only presenting this in 2 or 3 dimensions because humans can't see 64 at once. But we'd be able to see if you've got a corrosive thing or an environmental hazard thing or a health hazard thing or an agent that would count as a nerve agent or something along those lines. So with this sort of analysis, it makes it much more practical and extensible to the mission space. With the multimodal fusion, we're taking those elements and putting them together into something that is greater than the sum of their parts. So we create a solution that for the operator makes it easier to make the right decisions, make good decisions faster. And it is doing that in such a way that it's explainable, it's understandable, it's justifiable. And this part of teaming and use with those folks is important for the practical application of this in an environment that doesn't have a huge burden for architecture or for training. So what that means practically is that for the operators, they're getting an AR/VR heads-up display for mission execution and reduced cognitive load. And the commanders, like you saw in the video, have that AR/VR SAN table interface. And this is, again, just one way that we've implemented OptoAI. So to summarize, the key differentiators of OptoAI are all those things on the left, which I'm not going to read to you, but you've heard most of them out loud. I will, though, read the bluff, which has become a bang box, and it's that, again, OptoAI is an extensible collection of best-in-class AI algorithms for ISR with optional hardware if the situation calls for it to enhance existing platforms like those you see up there on the right. I'll give you a summary also of our organization. We are, again, a fully US-based consultancy of 50 expert practitioners who operate as AI special forces. And our practice areas that you see there cover the full pipeline from strategy to algorithms to architectures to deployment at scale. I've enjoyed sharing today about OptoAI for ISR at the tactical edge. For that or anything else, we're available for contracting through Jake Tradewind, thanks to this event, the USN agency catalog, Seaport, GSA vehicles, OTAs, and more. I've put a link to the slides in the chat again, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, guys. I appreciate that so much. Even had a couple minutes here to spare, so awesome work, great timing. Enjoyed hearing more about SFL Scientific. And as I mentioned earlier, you'll get a report of all those folks who attended your session today so that you can choose to engage them in the most applicable of ways post-event. Thanks so much for participating today. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon. We've got a lot more on the slate, about another 3 hours worth of presentation. So appreciate you coming. Great job.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Well.